Hello student, good morning. I hope you all will be safe and sound. As we are discussing in the history, that is in chapter 9, that mainly about whatever the movements that were initiated between the period of 1870 to 1947. So, in the previous video, we have talked about the non-cooperation movement as well as about the Khilafat movement. So now, we have to discuss about the march to Dandi. As we all know that, this was initiated by the Mahatma Gandhi during the period of 1930, when he also started one movement named Civil Disobedience Movement. So what they have given under this one, see, Purna Swaraj, that is full freedom, would never come on its own. So it will never come on its own, means automatically it will not come. We have to do something, then we will get the full freedom from the British government. It means to say, it had to be fought for getting the freedom, for getting the full freedom and Purna Swaraj. So we had to fight for it. In 1930, Gandhi declared that he would lead a march to break the salt law. So, in same year, in the year of 1930, Gandhiji just declared that he would lead to a march to break the salt law because the British government has imposed some taxes on the salt. According to this law, the state had a monopoly on the manufacture and sale of the salt. So, according to this one, there was a monopoly. Only the right has been given to the British government to produce the salt and to sale of the salt. Mahatma Gandhi, along with other nationalists, reasoned that it was sinful to tax salt since it is such an essential item of our food. So, as it is very essential item of our food, so it is very sinful, it is very bad to impose the tax on the salt. Then the salt march related this general desire of freedom to the specific grievances shared by everybody. So, as we all know that, the Gandhi just took the initiative and other nationalists also took the participate in this one salt march, and it was related to the general desire of freedom for the Indians. The Indian nationalists, they also wanted to get the freedom from the Britishers and to specific grievances, whatever its grievances were there, mean to say its loopholes were there, it was shared by everybody. Then and thus did not divide the rich and the poor, means all the people of India, they united together. They didn't divide on the basis of their status like rich and poor. Gandhi and his followers marched for over 240 miles from Sabarmati to the coastal towns of Dandi, where they broke the government law by gathering natural salt found on the seashores and boiling seawater to produce salt. So what happened? So along with his followers, Gandhi just marched over the 240 miles distance from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi, where they have broken the salt law which were imposed by the government by producing themselves natural salt by boiling the seawater and to produce the salt. They have given, and downside in the box they have given about the women in freedom struggles. So which sort of the women they have also took the participate in the struggle of the freedom. So you can read it and you can come to know about these women. Peasants, tribals and women participated in large numbers. So the peasants, the farmers, the tribal groups, the tribal people as well as the women, they have also taken the participate in the movements. A business federation published a pamphlet on the salt issue. So one business federation, one group of the business persons, they have also published, they have also just printed a pamphlet on the salt issue. The government tried to crush the movement through brutal action against peaceful satyagrahis. So the British government mainly tried to crush it. Crush means to say to break these all the satyagrahis by taking some brutal actions against these satyagrahis, these followers. Thousands were sent to the jail. Thousands of the Indians, thousands of the revolutionaries, they were sent to the jail by the British government. The combined struggle of the Indian people bore fruit when the Government of India Act of 1935 prescribed provincial autonomy and the government announced elections to the provisional legislature in 1937. Then what happened? Whatever the combined struggle were being done by the Indians, so the Indians got some kind of the, we can say some kind of the benefit of it. Bore fruit mean to say they got the benefit when the Government of India Act was passed by the British government in the 1935. It has been described over there in this Government Act, that is in the provincial, whatever the provinces were there, whatever the states were there, the small states were there. So the autonomy has given to these local rulers by the Britishers. And the government also announced, the British government also announced the election to the provincial legislature in 1937. The Congress formed government in 7 out of 11 provinces. So in these local provinces, these local states, so the Congress, Indian National Congress, got succeeded to make its government on 7 provinces out of 11 provinces. In September 1939, after 2 years of Congress rule in the provinces, the Second World War broke out. As we all know that after the 2 years, in 1939, the Second World War just started. Then, critical of Hitler, Congress leaders were ready to support the British war efforts. So, critical of Hitler, as they were also against of the Hitler at that time, as you all know that the whole world was divided into 2 groups, that you might have heard about the Allied nations and the Axis nations. Same like this, the Congress leaders, they wanted to support to the British government at that time. But in return, they wanted that India be granted independence after the war. So that is, instead of it, so they will support, that is okay, the Indians will give the support to the British government. But apart that, in return, what they wanted the independence after the finishing of the war. The British refused to concede the demand. The Congress ministers resigned in protest. So what happened? The British refused the same, whatever the proposal has been given by the Indian leaders in front of the British government. So it has been refused by the British government. Then the Congress ministers, whoever the Congress ministers in the British Legislative Assembly, so they have given the resignation from they have resigned from their post, as well as they just came into the protest against the British government. Then after, they have shown here the Quit India movement and later. So then the Quit India movement that was also initiated, and after this one what happened? Mahatma Gandhi decided to initiate a new phase of movement against the British in the middle of the Second World War. So in the middle of the Second World War, so Gandhi just decided to just started a new phase of movement which can just oppose to the British government. The British must quit India immediately. So he told the British must quit the India immediately. They have to leave the India very immediately. He told them, to the people, he said, do or die. And in this one moment, it was initiated mainly in the month of August 1942. So what the Gandhiji told to the Indian people, to do and die. Karo ya maro. Like this, he had given the slogan in this one, mainly in this one moment. But you must fight non-violently. But he also told to the people, suggested to the people, have to fight non-violently. Gandhi and other leaders were jailed at once, but the movement spread. Gandhi and the other main leaders, they were jailed by the British government, but till that time, the movement has spreaded all over the India. Then it especially attracted peasants and the youth who gave up their studies to join it. Mainly in this Quit India movement, so mainly it was joined by the students, they have left their studies, and even the farmers, they have joined. Communications and symbols of state authority were attacked all over the country. Whatever the communication, that for communicating the things for the provinces, and whatever the symbols of the state authorities were there, these were attacked by these people all over the country. In many areas, the people set up their own government. In many areas, in many of the provinces, the Indian people, they set up their own government. And this Quit India movement that took initiated in the August 1942. Then the first response of the British was severe repression. The first response against this one movement, so the Britishers have taken very bad repression to dominate over the Indian revolutionaries. By the end of the 1943, over 90,000 people were arrested and around 1,000 people were killed in police firing. So 90,000 Indians were arrested by 1943 and 1,000 people were killed by police during that time. In many areas, orders were given to machine gun crowd from airplanes. The rebellion, however, ultimately brought the Raj to its knees. So what happened? So in many areas, what happened? So in the crowd, they have used the machine guns by the airplanes, as well as whoever the rebellions, whoever the Indian nationalists were there, they were ultimately brought to the Raj to its knees. Mean to say the Britishers, they were helpless towards independence and partition. Then they have given about the independence and about the partition of India. Meanwhile, in 1940, the Muslim League had moved a resolution demanding independent state for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern areas of the country. So, in 1940, whatever the session of the Congress held, so in this one, the Muslim League just demanded for the separate states for the Muslims, separate country for the Muslims. Mainly in the northwestern part. Today, in present day, it is known as the Pakistan, and as well as they have also asked for the eastern part of the area. Earlier, today, if you take the example of today, it is known as Bangladesh. So earlier, before 1971, so the Bangladesh, it was known as the East Pakistan, and the Pakistan, it was known as the West Pakistan. Why did the League ask for the autonomous arrangement for the Muslims of the subcontinent? This question has been given, then they have given the answer here. From the late 1930, the League began viewing the Muslims as a separate nation from the Hindus. From 1930s, this Muslim League, this particular party, just seeking a separate Muslim nation for Muslims from the Hindus. In developing this nation, it may have been influenced by the history of tension between some Hindus and the Muslim groups in the 1920 and 1930s. Why it is so? Because before it, what happened? Some kind of means between the groups of on the Hindus and the Muslims. What happened? There were some kind of the debates, some kind of the tensions between both the groups. That is why the Muslims were demanding for a separate nation for the Muslims. More importantly, the provincial elections of 1937 seemed to have convinced the League that Muslims were a minority and they would always have to play second fiddle in the democratic structure. So whatever in 1937, whatever the elections were conducted over there, the Indian National Congress got the 7 seats out of 11. So it also just convinced to the Muslim League. It also just felt to the Muslim League that the Hindus were playing the primary role and the Muslims were given the secondary role over there in the democratic structure. It feared the Muslims may even go unrepresented. So here, after this one elections, so the Muslim leaders and the other Muslim people, they thought that they were not represented in these elections. The Congress rejection of the League's desire to form a joint Congress League government in the United Provinces in 1937 also annoyed the League. So after this one, what happened? After the Congress rejection of the League, so they were desiring to form a joint Congress League in one provinces. But what happened? The League of Nations, mainly the Muslim leagues, they got annoyed. They didn't want to mingle with the Hindu community in this one province. Then the Congress failure to mobilize the Muslim masses in 1930s allowed the League to widen its social support. So after this one failure, after whatever the Congress had done the efforts for mingling this one Muslim League in the Congress and making the United Provinces, after this one failure, what happened? The Muslim masses, the Muslim people in the 1930s allowed the League to widen its social support, to extend its social support. It sought to enlarge its support in the early 1940s when most Congress leaders were in the jail. So what happened? This Muslim League got many support and it got more support by the Muslim persons during 1940 when most of the Congress leaders, they were in jail. At the end of the war, Second World War, mainly in 1945, the British opened negotiation between the Congress and the League and themselves for independence of India. So as you all know that in 1945, when the war just finished, so after this one, the British government just done an agreement between Congress and the League, the Muslim League mainly, and themselves for the independence of India. The talks failed because the League saw itself as the sole spokesperson of India's Muslims. So the Muslim League, it only talked about the Muslims for a separate nation. That is why it got failed. The Congress could not accept this claim since a large number of Muslims still supported it. The Congress, it couldn't accept this particular support, this particular separate nation for the Muslims, because large number of many more Muslims were also supporting to the Indian National Congress. Elections to the province were again held in 1946. For these provinces, whatever the provinces were there, so for whatever the states were there, the elections were conducted in 1946. The Congress did well in the general constituencies, but the League success in the seats reserved for the Muslims was spectacular. It means to say, wherever the seats were reserved for the Muslims, although they got they won the elections over there, but in the general constituencies, the Congress won in the most of the seats. It persisted with its demand for Pakistan. So it just persisted, just supported to the Muslim League leaders for demanding for the Pakistan. In March 1946, the British cabinet sent a 3-member mission to Delhi to examine this demand and to suggest a suitable political framework for a free India. Then one of that has been given, it was also known as the Mountbatten Plan. So in this one, what happened? So 3 members were sent to India to examine this demand and suggest a suitable political framework for the free India. Then this mission suggested that India should remain united and constitute itself as a loose confederation with some autonomy for Muslim majority areas. Means say wherever the Muslim majority were there, so let them do their own rule over there. Let them do their own autonomy over there. This kind of the suggestions were given, but it could not get the Congress and the Muslim League to agree to the specific details of the proposal. So whatever the proposal had been given by these members, cabinet mission mainly, so it was not accepted. Partition now became more or less inevitable. So the partition, it became the more important for the country. Then after this one, whatever they have given, that we will discuss in the next video.